Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Kernels of Truth, brought to you by Progress Kentucky. Very excited to have you with us this evening. Really have a great show ready to go for you. Really excited about the fact that we are just under a week. We are 6 days away from the election. So we're going to bring you a couple of very important election stories for you to keep in mind as you head to the polls next week or tomorrow as early voting kicks off. No excuse, early voting kicks off in Kentucky tomorrow, Thursday. Depending on when you're listening to this, it kicks off on Thursday. Might not be tomorrow, depending on when you're listening to this. We're going to touch on a bit of political news from Frankfort. We're going to be joined again by Randy Cravens in the final push of his campaign to win the 6th congressional district race against Andy Barr. Then we're going to have a conversation with one of the hardest working groups helping to educate voters about Amendment 2, the school voucher amendment. So we're going to talk to the Kentucky Student Voice team, one of their student leaders, to hear about her concerns about Amendment 2 and why she's motivated to pitch in for the fight. And then finally, we're going to wrap up with a absolutely urgent last-minute call to action. But first, are you ready to help turn Kentucky purple? We are absolutely thrilled you're here, folks. Glad that you found us in this sea of internet options. And we hope you agree with us that Kentucky deserves better than Mitch McConnell, than Jamie Comer, than big banks, Andy Barr, and the GOP's supermajorities in the General Assembly, which block our governor time and time again from moving Kentucky forward. And, you know, every once in a while, we pull out nuggets at the ballot box and we do the right thing, right? We reelected Andy Barr. Or Andy Bashir. That was pretty cool. We rejected Amendment 2, the original amendment, maybe not the original, but Amendment 2 a few years back to keep abortion protections in our state constitution. We can get things done in this state from time to time, but there's a lot of work to do to win better electoral outcomes for our Commonwealth. And so we need your help to make that happen, right? Between now and November 5th, 6 days from now, we are going to be working for those better electoral outcomes. We hope you'll support Progress Kentucky in our campaign for a more compassionate Commonwealth. Make a contribution right now via our secure online website, Act Blue, to help turn Kentucky purple. $5, $50, $500. Why not? It all adds up. And it's not actually tax deductible. But it's a good thing to do with your resources, right? All right, now let's check in with our co-hosts. Let us know who you are, where you are, and if you had a protest sign, what would your protest sign say today? I'm Aaron. I'm coming to you from Childsburg in Lexington, Kentucky. My protest sign says, "Get out and vote. It's critical." So that's what I'm saying. Kimberly, are you there?
I sure am.
Awesome. What's your where are you coming from, and what's your protest sign say today?
I'm coming to you live today from Louisville, Jefferson County, the largest county in the state of Kentucky. And my protest sign says today, if you don't vote, don't gripe.
Nice. No, we're in the gripe-free zone if you do not vote. But everyone should vote because, man, what is American democracy without complaining about it, right?
Right.
Awesome. All right. Now let's go to Nate. Nate Orshan, you were here.
Yeah, I am. I just just flew in from the coast, and boy, are my arms tired. But no, works. My apologies to one and all. Works a little bit off the hook. But this is Nate Orshan coming live and direct from South Frankfort, and today my sign says, "Keep hope alive."
Nice.
That's what we need to do.
Yeah, for sure. Let's get some hope out there. Hope and change maybe a little bit, but
maybe.
All right. So we are going to now roll into news of the week, and we have a few stories we want to bring you. Very excited to be bringing you. So let's go ahead and do news of the week, right? Let's do that.
Don't. We need a theme for news of the week. Something, like
somebody. If somebody wants to write a theme, I know who's got the skill set, required skill set for that work. But yeah, I think the first story is going to come to us from our friend Kimberly. Kimberly, what do you got for us?
Yes, I have a great for you, for all you people in the state of Kentucky that appreciate good cannabis. If you have some ailments, it will be legal in the state of Kentucky for cannabis, marijuana, the Mary Jane, right? It will be legal in January of 2025, right here in the state of Kentucky. This was one of the major initiatives for our great governor Andy Bashir. So it was like the lottery, however, and this story is going to come from the Kentucky Lantern. Kentucky awarded its first 26 medical cannabis licenses through a lottery held this past Monday at the Kentucky Lottery Corporation, right here in good old Louisville. The first round of licenses drawn by the state lottery staff went to 16 cultivators and 10 processors. Monday's winners will get an email within 24 hours and must pay a licensing fee within 15 days. Failure to do so will result in licensing forfeiting. Winners will have to renew after a year, and our governor, Andy Bashir, called on Monday, drawing a big step forward. He says that medical cannabis can help people, especially those with really serious conditions. He also said that this after the drawing, he said people will be buying product that is grown here, that is processed here, and that is tested here, that would otherwise be in other states. So actually, in 2023, the legislature legalized medical marijuana for Kentuckians that suffer from chronic illnesses. And after the governor forced their hand by announcing there would be no prosecutions of folks holding a legitimate prescription if they were found with marijuana. Then the bipartisan House Bill 829 that became law during this year's legislative session moved up the medical cannabis licensing timeline from January of 2024 to July 1st, 2024. During the application period, which was between July the 1st and August the 31st, the state had received just a little less than 5,000 applications for medical cannabis business licenses, including 918 cultivators and processor applications, according to the governor's office. Patients who qualify for medical cannabis with a history of post-traumatic stress disorder, cancer, or other approved medical conditions won't be able to apply for cannabis cards until January the 1st. Now, also, I would like to mention to everyone that just because you have that actual prescription and you can show the police if they happen to pull you over, does not mean that they cannot still arrest you for being underneath the influence. Okay, so back to you, Aaron.
Yeah, so this seems great, right? They're making progress, they're getting the permits lined up, the businesses will be starting up, that kind of economic boom that'll come from, Louisiana businesses being in the mix. I do love that the the system of selecting which permits were going to be the golden ticket went to the Kentucky Lottery Corporation. Like, hey, those guys know how to do drawings. Let's put them in charge. They could have done a random number generator on their own over there, but yeah, no. Like, let's get the lottery, Mega Millions for the medical marijuana team for sure. I don't know.
I'm just gonna say I'm so happy. I suffer from PTSD since Trump was in office. And other various things. So I think that I am like a great candidate for it. And I think that I'll be the greatest person on the Kernels of Truth to tell about my experiences on the medical marijuana that comes from right here, the soil of Kentucky.
You cannot wait. That glaucoma. I hear that your glaucoma is really acting up.
Oh, you don't put that on me. I rebuke that. I will not have glaucoma. I just got
get thee behind
PTSD
me.
dealing with y'all every week on this show. I got PTSD.
Nate, what do you think about the medical marijuana Mega Millions coming up?
I mean, just the legalization itself is long overdue and righteous, and I'm glad that we have a governor that actually gets behind it. I think still it's a little, it's hard not to think that there may be, that the licenses might not be going to the most deserving people. You want to have good faith and trust and all that kind of stuff, but I think that I'm a little bit cynical when it comes to big business getting into sort of, I don't know what to call them except for sin industries, industries that are related to things that aren't, the gambling, the drugs, the yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
But hey, it's a step in the right direction. And people like Kimberly are really going to benefit, and their quality of life is really going to.
I sure am.
No, but I mean, for real. I mean, I know someone who sometimes takes, what is it? Some edible stuff just for sleep, not as a party drug, but and it's an effective, sleep med for that person. So, there's legitimate uses for cannabis for sure.
Oh no, for sure. And I think people will get treatment, people will get medicine. Some people, I'm sure, will be diagnosed with ailments they might not have had before. But I do think it's,
yeah, there's that.
It's good that this stuff is happening, in Kentucky businesses, not people driving to Illinois or whatever to get it, right? So
yeah,
keeping it in our borders for sure, and in our economy. So that's a great thing. Yeah, and I do think it'll be interesting to see how the industry develops. I think with medical, maybe maybe not as, I have no idea actually. I haven't literally lived in a state that's had it legalized, so not really sure what the situation will be, but it'll be interesting to see it happen. So all right, we're gonna move into our second story, and I'm gonna continue to have camera problems. I don't know why my camera doesn't want to stay on, but yeah, that's fine. You guys know what I look like. It's cool. All right, so this is another story that comes to us from the Kentucky Lantern. And just so you know, we love the Kentucky Lantern. It pays attention to the stuff we care about in Frankfort, Kentucky politics, reported on well, without bias, just with the facts, and without a paywall. So I'm just going to say I do like a paywall-free news source.
Yeah, right.
So this is big solar projects are coming to Eastern Kentucky. $1.4 billion in federal grants and loans were announced this week. And this was officials from Eastern Kentucky Power Cooperative and the U.S. Department of Agriculture joining Governor Beshear at the state capitol to tout funding that will build solar installations producing 757 megawatts of electricity and improve transmission infrastructure, which is really critical to bring more solar onto the grid or more renewable onto the grid. You need to have really good transmission to make that happen. And they're kind of doubling those projects by doing the transmission and the generation, which is great. So Eastern Kentucky Power Cooperative wants to build solar installations itself instead of purchasing solar power from private solar developers. So our friend Adam Edelin and Edelin Renewables probably a little disappointed about that, but the solar installations are going to need to be on the ground by September 30th, 2031 to comply with a federal deadline. Not tomorrow. So that deadline is not tomorrow. They've got some time to comply, but roughly 40 transmission projects are being planned for reliability and to allow more renewables to flow to homes and businesses. Earlier this year, Eastern Kentucky Power Cooperative proposed to build 2 solar installations in Fayette and Marion counties, generating a combined 136 megawatts of electricity. Those are running into some, the Fayette County for sure is running into some opposition. There are folks who don't want to see kind of farmland used for solar. Although I would much prefer solar than, parking lots or houses, things that, you can never pull out for sure. And you can't actually do agriculture around solar installations, right? So sheep, can graze in solar installations and actually a very useful thing for solar installations. But the funding for this project comes from the Empowering Rural America program, the new ERA, and the monies are made available through the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act, which we want to note handily noted by the Kentucky Lantern. That IRA was opposed by all of the Republicans in Kentucky's congressional delegation. But I bet if you invite Andy Barr, he'll show up at a ribbon cutting for that solar farm on one of those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like other electric utilities in Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky Power Cooperative right now generates the majority of its power from burning coal, which is of course the biggest emitter of greenhouse gases. So this, IRA funding is the biggest climate change initiative on the, in the history of the planet. Although it is, needs to be doubled and tripled, quadrupled across the country and the world to do what we need to do. But and I think in a bit of irony, the Eastern Kentucky Power Cooperative, while accepting this money gladly, they're also supporting a lawsuit to federal regulations that would require utilities to curb nearly all greenhouse gas emissions by 2032 from new natural gas fired and coal fired power plants. So, on one hand, they're happy to have the money. On the other hand, they would like the federal government to, end the regulations, I suppose. So, that's kind of where we're at with that one. All right. So I will say this. I think that the fact that we are one of the worst states in the country, I think we are 49th worst in terms of renewable energy generation. The dead last state in the nation is West Virginia. So the fact that we have been so adamantly opposed to clean energy and have stopped clean energy projects, and if you paid attention to the legislature, or paid attention to our show, we talked a lot about a bill that would make it harder for them to bring renewables online and make it harder for them to close coal-fired power plants. So yeah, really, absolutely, this is a big moment. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of projects. That's a lot of megawatts of power, and I'm just happy to see it. It's late, but it's at least it's coming online, so that's great. Anyone else thoughts about the solar energy boom coming to Eastern Kentucky?
I mean, it's a little disappointing to think of sort of resistance to renewable energy coming from sort of, I don't know what you call it, energy dead enders, the people who are sort of in the thrall of the fossil fuel industry, specifically coal, and I get, long storied and songed history of coal production and supporting communities in one sense or another here in Kentucky. But, it's just not, there's no way, there's this famous instance where the campaigner Trump back in, I think it was 16, maybe even 15, but he promised that he'd be bringing coal mining jobs back, coal jobs, right? There was no way. Most people didn't understand what a liar he was at the point, but it was just another sad excuse to exploit the hopes of people who had sort of grown up with coal, their parents and families working coal. So let's get more families working on solar farms and maybe even wind in the future, although I know that's a little more touchy because it needs more square area and all that kind of stuff. But we certainly got winds here in Kentucky.
Yeah, and I think the truth of the matter is that like solar and wind are now the two cheapest sources of power. Not like the cheapest and cleanest, just the cheapest, right? So these utilities want to be moving to things like that, and obviously for some deployments you'll need batteries for kind of some backup elements. But yeah, this we can run the grid on the kind of energy of the future, as long as we got the transmission that we need to kind of put the energy where it needs to go. The smart grid investments that are also being made, which are really important too, right? To avoid whatever what happened in Texas and their big freeze, right? So at any rate, it's an exciting time. I just want to underscore one more time, like the IRA is working. It is absolutely standing up clean energy programs in ways that are really important. This will be great for our economy. It'll be great for our grid. It'll be great for air pollution in the Commonwealth, and you add that in with the EV battery factories that we're experiencing throughout the Commonwealth. Like really exciting, great investments are happening thanks to the Inflation Reduction Act. And I'm just going to say it, like the current federal conversation that's happening. I know we're not really having much of a federal conversation in Kentucky. But in those 7 states where, there's like they're fighting over, the ability to be there the most, I think the Democrats have absolutely let the Inflation Reduction Act and the benefits it's providing to states in terms of these economic benefit projects, I think they've like really kind of dropped the ball. Like it's one of the most landmark pieces of legislation ever, and they have not like touting the investments in the ways that I think they should. Like it was a huge win, and it was passed without a single Republican vote. Right, all these Republicans in Kentucky voted against it. They're all going to, be more than happy to see the battery plants and the jobs that go with it, and the solar installations that are happening, the jobs that go with it. But they voted against every component of it for sure. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next administration, and whether this stuff will be on the chopping block, and whether the Republicans who are now benefiting from most of these IRA investments, which are in red areas and in purple states, like if they're going to show up and say, actually, yeah, we voted against it, and yeah, we vilified it every chance we had, but we really actually do want to protect the jobs that this thing has created. It'll be interesting to see. So
yeah.
And these are also, and one last thing, I'll get off my soapbox here. These are also folks who, really just like get that China is eating our lunch on renewable energy, and they want to like compete with China, and they're desperate to like not let China kind of own the area, but they don't seem to get that the policies that like have created this manufacturing renaissance, this clean energy manufacturing renaissance in the United States of America, it's the Inflation Reduction Act. Because as this Buy America, Build America kind of components, they've got to be buying some of this. We've seen solar panel manufacturing actually happening in America, chips manufacturing happening in America. All the stuff that had been offshored for so long is now kind of coming back to our country, and it's like that's the policy that made it happen, folks. You got to just acknowledge that this is like a smart move and a good move, and it's having a real world impact. So, at any rate, all right, off my soapbox. Kimberly, any thoughts about solar energy, or have you just like tuned out because Aaron's like, oh, Aaron's talking about
he's
climate again.
Soapbox.
I tell you what, I'm so proud of you, Aaron, that you remembered me. So anyway.
Well, we'd remember you better if we could see your face.
I know. Well, I got to get some better.
She does not have the interwebs necessary to show her beautiful face.
I'm sorry. This is what I get for parachuting.
You don't need to see my face. All you got to see is what Madam Vice President Kamala Harris is, and I am too.
You're soror.
Founded on January the 15th of 1908.
Amazing.
One of the first of the Black Greeks. So anyway, this is what I feel about the situation. Number one, I don't think that our message has been very clear to people that are still in the old mindset. I don't think that we've really made it clear to them that you're not going to lose something. You're going to most definitely gain something. And an extra added benefit of that is your health. I don't know anyone that wants to go down in those mines. Okay. Number one. Number two, I just think that the messaging hasn't been totally what some people need to move over to a more progressive way of doing things, because sooner or later, you're not going to have a choice.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like Kentucky's the like, let's go down with the ship kind of approach. Like we're going to keep our coal-fired power plants running until, the sea is lapping against them, even though we are very much an inland state. So I don't know. Hopefully people will catch on that it's good for their jobs, good for the economy, and good for the climate. Like you can just not talk about the climate bit because that's been so polarized, unfortunately. Science is now a one more thing that's in the culture wars, I guess. All right, so hey, we should move on because we've gone long. I don't know how it happens, but I did want to touch on the fact that we released all of our endorsements today. So yesterday or the day before, I don't know. We did a bunch of them, and I see that Nate, you've loaded them all up, which is fantastic. Let's just run through them. We'll do a quick I don't know how this is going to work because I think it's probably going to show our faces.
Slideshow. It's a slideshow.
It's a slideshow.
Here comes slide number 1.
We did the diligent work. We created a form that they could fill out, and it was like 4 questions, and it was very exhausting. and some folks filled it out. And so we've endorsed the folks who answered the questions right. And number one thing we've endorsed, which is, of course, the opposition to Amendment 2. So we've rejected Amendment 2 officially as an organization. We're out canvassing on it right now. Yes. It's a huge problem. It's going to blow a hole in a lot of education budgets and give money to unaccountable private schools. We'll talk about that more later. All right, next one. Sherilyn Stevenson, House District 88, my representative, my district. Very important that she gets back there. Very tight race last time. They redistricted her. They gerrymandered her district even a bit more to make it harder for her to kind of hold on to that seat. But last time she won by 35 votes. That was in a non-Trump, non-national election year. We'll see what happens this year. She's working really hard, and we want her to get back there. Next one. Adam Moore, who's been on the show quite a few times, a couple of times, talking about his campaign. He's running against Thomas Jefferson, not the real Thomas Jefferson, who is a Liberty Republican, really a bad fit for the district. Adam Moore, combat veteran, small business owner, really thoughtful guy. Just really, we got to put him get him to Frankfort to work with Governor Beshear for sure. Next one. Randy Cravens. Well, you'll hear more from him later. But yeah, we love Randy. We're so excited that he's running. We're glad that he's running against Andy Barr, the empty suit. And in the 6th district, which is, I think, a pretty big chunk of the bluegrass, and get out there and vote for him. Next one. Aaron Marshall, who's in the 1st district, the weirdest looking district in our state for sure. It's got that Comer Hook, one of the longest districts, I suppose, but she does include Frankfort, which I know we have a lot of viewers and supporters who are in Frankfort. Nate, get out and vote for her.
We love you, Aaron.
She is awesome. Aaron is fantastic. Bringing voters a choice to the 1st district. All right, next one. Molly Jean Crane. Oh my God, she's such a great fit for the 27th district. It's rural with some Fayette. She's like attorney, very much steeped in agriculture work and business and her family. And she is phenomenal. And she's doing a lot of work to get into that seat. So I really hope folks go out and support her in the Senate District 27. Next one. Ryan Stanford, what a guy, good guy. Here's the thing, Ryan's not been on the show. He's the only one of our endorsees, I think, that has not been on the show, because every Wednesday night he coaches his daughter's soccer team. And he's like just a man of the people, small business guy, really doing this for the right reasons. So in the 39th district, House District, please vote for Ryan Stanford. Kiana Fields, she was on the show. She is wonderful. This was the one that was Damon Thayer's district for too long. Damon Thayer is retiring to go make a lot of money in the private sector to tread on his, to take advantage of his political connections. And now that's an open Senate seat, and she's phenomenal. And we should definitely rally for her in the Senate District 17. Next slide. All right.
Whoops. Oh, well, two more.
Yeah. All right. Yes, Zach. Great guy. I'm going to be honest. I'm not 100% sure where Senate House District 84 is. It's to the east, I believe.
I think Harlan, right?
Harlan County.
Oh God, Letcher? No.
Yeah.
It's a funny one because there's actually 3 full counties. Like a lot of these are so gerrymandered, but this one actually almost makes sense.
Yeah. No, so it's going to be a fight for sure. I think it is a pretty red district, but he's fighting and he's working hard, and we appreciate what he's doing and hope that he is successful for sure. All right, and then yes, Jamie Skudlerick, who was on the show. She's phenomenal, really doing this for the right reasons. And Senate District 5, which is, I think, more like Western Kentucky. So it's an interesting district, and she's doing the work. So she's getting the doors out. She's got a lot of volunteers helping her out. So go out and support her if you are in Senate District 5. All right, there we go. That's the endorsements. All great people, all doing it for the right reasons. You should endorse them. You should support them. Starting tomorrow with early voting. Quick question. are people here early voters, or do you like to do the traditional election day voting?
I'm going to do early.
You want to do early, Kimberly?
Yep. Tomorrow starts early, and I will be there not only early in the morning, I'm going to vote tomorrow.
Yeah. So I don't know. Nate, what do you think? Are you going to vote day of? Are you going to vote like early?
So I'm typically I like voting on election day because it makes me feel like I'm part of a Norman Rockwell, picture or something like patriotism. But because there's a lot of very unhinged people out there and they're very unpredictable, it may make sense to vote a little bit early. So we'll see. So.
Gotcha. I don't think we've got enough like money in our election system that there's going to be like a vote chasing happening or anything like that, right? So I think do what works for you and works for your schedule, and just know that Thursday, Friday, and Saturday there's no excuse early voting. You'll need to figure out if because it's going to be different wherever you are, which county you're in, where you can do that early voting. I know in Fayette County you can go to the library and there will be an opportunity to vote at the library, so that's kind of cool, kind of convenient. You should go to the library anyway, right? But I'm like a little old school. Like, I like to go on election day. It's the most convenient because it's very close to me. I can walk up there, and I'm a big fan of walking. So
Yes.
I don't know. We'll see. But do what works for you. Just make sure you do it. Make sure it happens. All right. So we've gone super long. Let's just jump in. We are excited to bring you right now Randy Cravens. As I said at the top of the show, we've got 2 interviews today. So you're also going to hear from Ellen Mueller with the Kentucky Student Voice team about their work on Amendment 2. But first off, we're going to bring you Randy Cravens back to the show, 3rd, 4th, 5th. I don't know. We're about to make you a co-host, Randy. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you for So tell us what's the closing argument from the Cravens campaign.
I mean, you've done a real good job of making the argument already. I mean, we're talking about a race against an empty suit, and I think there's been no better example of that than the last couple of weeks since Congress has gone into recess. You've seen Andy Barr all of a sudden appear in the 6th district and go to a different ribbon cutting every day and take a lot of credit for a lot of work that he didn't do. So really what it comes down to is this, and I think this is indicative of the sentiment throughout our country. You're seeing a rejection of hatred in politics. You're seeing a rejection of the negativity, and you're seeing a desire for inclusivity and for progress. And there's no more stark contrast of that than in the race that I have against Andy Barr. I mean, he is front and center an enabler of the Trumpian wing of the party, which he wasn't before, but has made that hard turn, a choice that he made on his own. And it's a choice that I think the folks in Central Kentucky are really not too fond of. And I think we've got a real good chance to shock the world come Tuesday.
Oh, that is music to my ears for sure. Yeah, I think, Randy Barr, Andy Barr, nice enough guy, but what has he done? Right? He has been there for an awfully long time to have 0 legislative accomplishments. And he just, does what Republicans do and does the Republican kind of like hate fest in terms of like his Facebook presence and social media and all that garbage. You meet him and you're like, oh, I'm surprised. You don't seem like an extremist, but oh my gosh, I'm looking at what you're saying to your constituents, or at least the ones the algorithms show you. And it's just, I'm with you, Randy. Like, enough of that garbage. Like, let's actually be, united. Let's bring people together for common sense solutions. And I know, Randy, you got into politics, I think because of Uvalde and the kind of the school shooting, that tragedy, and the tragic non-response. As you think about, like, is that still a motivator for you? What are you finding is resonating on the campaign trail when you're talking to folks who will be voting for you in the next few days?
Well, it will always be a motivating factor, and it's always going to be a driving force behind the action that I seek to take in Washington. But what has resonated most, and I'll tell you this, I've had some fantastic and very deep conversations across the district. It hasn't just been shaking hands and kissing babies. We've been actually getting down to brass tacks and talking about what people care about. And what people are really concerned about is the legacy that we're leaving for our kids and for our grandkids. And what resonates most with folks is the understanding that we're going to be taking very consequential votes in the next couple of years, the results of which, many of us are not going to live to see. And when you take a step back and look at the totality of what we're dealing with here, it's quite a arresting, thought to look at that. But when people get to thinking about that, they think, well, how do we want to present what we have left to our kids? Do we want to say that we have left them a united country where they have safety at school, they have good schools to go to, good public schools, they're not fighting for funding, they're well funded, they've got teachers that are paid well, they've got nutritious meals at their schools? All of those things are just very basic brass tacks, foundational beliefs that we should seek to provide. It's not being done right now. There's too much hostility. There's too much disarray in Washington, and quite frankly, there's too much stagnation. And that's what we're fighting against, is to actually allow progress to take place.
Nice. And we noted that you had gotten the Lexington Herald, in addition to our endorsement, which I know is like a game changer. You also got the Lexington Herald Leader endorsement, which, I think that's saying something, right? That is like there's an enormous amount of legitimacy that the paper of record for the district says you're the guy, right? After seeing Andy Barr for so long, how'd that happen, and what are you doing about that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Progress Kentucky is my very first and most cherished endorsement. But looking beyond that to the Herald Leader, the last race they didn't endorse a candidate for reasons that aren't really worth going into here and now. But suffice it to say, it was a very exhaustive interview. It was a very thorough and in-depth conversation, and it was not an easily won endorsement. So I take a lot of pride in the endorsement from the Herald Leader and their service to our community, because though they are a commercial enterprise and they do have paywalls, they are the newspaper of record in our region in a time when newspapers are falling left and right. So I'm thankful for their continued reporting, and I'm thankful for the endorsement, the opportunity I had. And I think it's just indicative, again, of an outsider's viewpoint to say, look, 12 years ago, Andy Barr was the future, and now we're living in his present. Do we want to continue on with that, or do we want to have a bridge to a new future? And I think that's as clear and stark of an argument as any for my candidacy and for my occupancy of the office in Washington.
Awesome. Kimberly, Nate, got a question for our friend?
Sure, I'll defer to Kimberly, but I have one kind of teed up for Andy. The Republicans like to make a lot of hay out of inflation and sort of point the finger at the Biden administration and, sort of badmouth them at every turn because prices have gotten higher because of inflation. Now, you as a member of Congress would have the opportunity to maybe do something or propose something. So what do you think? What would you do to try to fight inflation if you got into Congress?
That's a great question, Nate. First and foremost, I'm glad that we are all seeing inflation begin to wane from its peak. We're back down around that 2.5% to 3% rate, which we hope to be at. But I think what Vice President Harris has recently put forward as her plan for tackling price gouging, specifically with core grocery items, is sorely needed on the federal level. Many states have that exact kind of legislation, and I think on the federal level it makes sense. We have seen, in the COVID era and post-COVID, corporations taking advantage of legitimate hiccups in the supply chain and reflective of transportation delays and lack of manpower, things of that nature, just because of the situation, and tacking on price increase after price increase on that, which was unwarranted. And you're seeing evidence of that now where, many corporations, big box stores are lowering prices, writ large to bring in more business. Well, those prices are high because they raised them at a time of peak inflation to take advantage of greedflation, which is what it was. Government can't fix everything. We can't police everything as a government, but what we can hope to do is to address the most sinister pain points that are inflicted upon the general public by corporate entities, and we need to make sure that we can curtail those in such a way to allow free enterprise and allow the functioning of the private marketplace, but to also have consumer protections. And it'll be my responsibility, my charge, and my job in Washington to promote legislation and to pass legislation that does institute those safeguards.
Nice. All right, Kimberly, any final thoughts for our guest?
Yes, Congressman Cravens.
Aspirational.
I'll take it.
You know, they said, call it into existence, right?
I love
The
that.
belief will get you there. I have read all about you. I think I'm like your next door neighbor. I know everything about you. And I will say this, I'm very impressed with your messaging. I know that you said that the 3 key messages of your campaign and the main points that you wanted the constituency to understand and know is that you have made a pledge to the Kentuckians in the 6th district that you will protect the rights of women, be free from government intrusion, their medical choices. You're going to fight to protect IVF. Also, you said that you will protect the rights of our LGBTQIA plus community to ensure that they're able to have a happy and equal life. I like that. And then you also said the third point that you made was that you will work to address the crises in affordable housing, and you're going to try to do federal incentives for developers to create more affordable housing, which I really, really am on to that. So I like where you stand, most definitely. And of course, being personal, you want to keep the rights of women. I know that that is so important. My daughter's in the Air Force, and she is going to be retiring in less than 2 years, and she doesn't even want to come back to the state of Kentucky as a young woman. Well, I don't know if she's going to be so young. She'll be 37. I had her when I was 2 years old. So you all missed that story in the Inquirer, I'm telling you. So I really am impressed with everything that you were saying. However, I think there needs to be a 4th point on here, and I want to ask you how you feel about that. In today's climate of humanism, it has been notated to me by various people from all walks of life, and also my own personal observations. It appears that people are getting more angry. People are feeling that our government is not for them, that they have some type of backdoor deals going on that the American people really don't know anything about. And I want to know the 4th point, if this is something that you would like. I think the 4th point should be allowing the rights of everybody, all of your marginalized individuals, because at this particular point in time, you hear so much about the trans movement, LGBTQIA plus, and my son is gay, so I'm really on that pride tip, right? However, I don't really see as much with candidates talking about our indigenous folks in the state of Kentucky, or it almost seems like the movement for Black Americans has slowed to a screeching halt, and so on and so forth. So, what do you think about that 4th point right there?
I mean, to that, I would just say, how can you progress when you're trying to survive? You know, you speak about the indigenous communities, and I live in Madison County. Richmond's a county seat, and we are home to the Richmond Powwow, which is a very celebrated gathering of indigenous people from our area. And you look back to just earlier this week when President Biden issued the first official apology for treatment of Native students in boarding schools. and the effect that that has had on their communities, and quite frankly, the treatment of Native American communities throughout and reservations throughout the country. I think a terrible side effect of all the hostility that has gone on in over the last 8-10 years with the era of Trumpism is that so many eyes have been taken off of, and so many wheels have fallen off of the progress of those other communities towards reaching a better equality. You know, we can't even pass voting rights at this point in time when we're a representative democracy. And because of that, because of all the hostility and anger, of course, there's not going to be any progress. You know, you can't put one foot in front of the other right now, and that's really what I'm talking about when I talk about the gridlock in Washington. But I think we can tackle all of those issues that you mentioned when you have representatives there that are actually representative of the communities that send them. You know, I've lived a very normal and ordinary life. I did not have a silver spoon in my mouth when I was born. I've worked hard, you know, had trouble as a youth, you know, single parent household and all that, and worked my way up to a middle class life now. And I had a lot of privilege to get there. My job as a congressman is going to be to ensure that everyone has that same opportunity, regardless of the color of their skin, who they worship, who they love, any other factor. Equality is the ultimate goal of our democracy. And we need to make sure that we get there. Is that something I can fix in 2 or 4 years? No, but it's something we can make a heck of a lot of progress on once the wheels of government start moving. So often we get so paralyzed just in whatever cable news tells us is the issue of the day that we lose sight of the bigger picture, which is our American experience and our American experiment. And once we get to a point where we can have actual cooperation on a bipartisan or unipartisan basis, as is necessary, we can make those strides that are necessary. Like I said earlier, government can't fix everything, but we can sure as heck set an environment of inclusivity that would facilitate all of those things happening and all of those resolutions coming to pass.
One more quick question, because I know we have someone else, and I don't want my little brother over there, Aaron, to fire me. You know, every week he wants to fire me, but he loves me too much to let me go.
It's hard to fire volunteers is the tricky thing.
Oh, is that all I am? See, we're going to have a one-on-one after the show. Anyway, Congressman Cravens, one quick question. Can you tell that I'm in the same sorority as the Vice President Harris?
Absolutely.
And what sorority, the greatest sorority ever known to mankind, what sorority would that be?
Alpha Kappa Alpha, of course.
Hey, that's right. 20 pearls for the pretty girls. I'll be a stuck-up AKA to the day that I die.
That's right.
Don't be upset if I bring Vice President, when I bring President Harris to Kentucky. You all better be nice to me if you want to.
All right.
We'll be nice to you.
We'll start then.
Randy, thank you so much for the running the race you're running. Thanks for the ideas you're pushing out there, the challenge you're bringing, and we're gonna shock the bluegrass, and we'll look forward to congratulating you next week.
Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it, and everyone get out and vote, please.
Yes.
Get out and get other people out to vote. I have very little concern about our audience voting. But yeah, whatever you can do to get other people out to vote, that is going to be important. All right. So really excited. We're now bringing on Ellen Mueller, who is with the Kentucky Student Voice team. We have had the Kentucky Student Voice team on our show in the past. They were very active on the omnibus anti-LGBTQ plus SB HB 150, and now very active on the Amendment 2 fight against Amendment 2. And very excited to have Ellen join us. So Ellen, thanks so much for coming on the show. Tell us a little bit about Kentucky Student Voice team and what that is.
Can you
So,
mute?
okay.
There you go.
Okay. The Kentucky Student Voice Team is a youth-led nonprofit, and we're made up of about 100 or so students from around the state. And we are working to co-create more just and democratic schools and communities through our education research, policy, and storytelling teams. And we've published our own research many times, and we've introduced legislation to get student members on school boards in Kentucky, and we also have our own youth-led journalism platform and podcast. So it's a really, really amazing organization, and I'm very lucky to be a part of it. Yeah.
Very cool. And then, so where are you from?
I'm from Scott County, so Georgetown, just outside of Lexington. Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. All right. And then what concerns you and the Kentucky Student Voice team about the impacts of Amendment 2?
So really just concerned that Amendment 2 would lead to the creation of vouchers, which could have really detrimental impacts on our state. And in Scott County in particular, like if we had a Florida-style voucher program, Scott County would lose $15.6 million and 145 educator jobs. And we are already seeing the impacts of the teacher shortage in Kentucky and in my school. And by losing funding and even more educator jobs, this would just exacerbate those impacts and worsen our already ongoing teacher shortage. Also worried about like in rural communities where there are no private schools. This would really just be taking money out of those communities to subsidize private schools in like Fayette County or Jefferson County. And like in Scott County, we don't have any private high schools. So it would really just be taking money out of our communities. And our public schools really are like the backbone of our communities and give like an equal stepping stone to all students, no matter their background or their income. And yeah.
That's awesome. Nate, you have a question?
Yeah. Well, of course, I'm, delighted that you're doing the work you're doing. When you talk with your friends and you talk with just peers, fellow students, are they aware of Amendment 2? Do they have any opinions about it? What's your experience with that?
When talking to a lot of my friends, I don't know. I've been talking and trying to educate a lot of my friends, especially ones who will be able to vote, about Amendment 2. And a lot of us do have connections to teachers. Our parents or family members are teachers, and they know that Amendment 2 would have terrible impacts for our schools. We did a voter registration drive at our school, and we created like little informational cards to give out to teachers and students about Amendment 2 and what the impacts would be. And I've also had conversations with teachers who didn't know about Amendment 2. I mean, that was about like a month ago, but
Whoa.
Yeah, still. So yeah, I feel like at this point, a lot of people are more aware, but it was still really important to me to have those conversations and doing my part to educate other people. Yeah.
Yeah, you're a good representative for sure.
Awesome. And then Kimberly, any questions for Ellen? Kimberly, you are muted.
It keeps muting me and unmuting me. My computer is possessed. I just want to tell the young lady right here, I'm very, very, very proud of the work that you're doing. Please keep it up. We need more like you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. So I've got something. I'm going to throw something at you, Ellen, and I want you to respond to it. Okay. So this came in the mail to me recently, and it is a yes on 2 mailer, and it says that parents are calling the play for their kids' success It's Amendment 2. That's the play for success, because it's going to bring more funding for our schools, more support for our teachers, and voting yes on Amendment 2 supports our public schools. So that's what came into my mailbox. What how do you respond to that? Like, it seems like it's a really important thing that we do, you know?
Yeah, I've also received those mailers, and they really are just unfactual claims and not really backed up by any evidence or research. And um, if you are creating a voucher program, then where are you going to get the funding to create that, if not from public school funding or from another sector like infrastructure or healthcare or something like that? So I I don't know how that would increase funding for public schools. Um, and there is the idea that like more competition with more private schools or charter schools will improve our public schools, but that's I don't think that's the route. I don't think competition is the route we should be headed, and or is really what will work to improve public schools. And I I think those are, yeah, very misinforming,
They're
unfortunately.
lies. These are lies. I think that these are they're mailing out lies. They're putting lies. I'll just say it, Ellen. You were very polite about it. But yeah, this is like garbage. Just absolute garbage. Out-of-state billionaires are flooding our mailboxes and our airways with lies. And yeah, I'm glad you guys are standing up for the facts, Ellen, at the Kentucky Student Voice team. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for the work you're doing. Any final thoughts? Like, how can we help out? What's going on? Do you have any final like rally or like closing efforts you guys have underway that we should tell people about?
We are going to be heading to some college campuses around the state in the next couple days. I don't have the exact dates or locations on my mind right now, but I think our Instagram is at KY Stu Voice Team. So just, sharing some of the different graphics and content about Amendment 2 and about the work we're doing would be really helpful. And I think, yeah, in all of our work, we're trying to uplift student perspectives, because even though a lot of us can't vote, we really do have a stake in the issue, and it's important to listen to youth voices in conversations about this. So just
Absolutely. You guys
listen.
are the most impacted by it. So that's fantastic. And I know that you guys are a member of the Protect Our Schools Kentucky Coalition. We are also a member of the Protect Our Schools Kentucky Coalition. Happy to be in coalition with you guys, but I completely concur that the voice of students in that conversation really important. And I know there's like some cool events happening throughout the region. They're doing the home stretch tour to protect our schools. Check that out. I think Lexington, I think maybe they moved it. I thought it was on Saturday, but it looks like maybe it's on Sunday. But yeah, we will put that in our show notes so you can find that. We'll share that out for sure. Sunday from 2 to 3 o'clock is the home stretch tour in Lexington. So, all right. Any final thoughts you want to share with our audience, Ellen?
I guess just keep your foot on the gas, keep educating, keep talking to other people. I feel really hopeful, and I'm just going to try to manifest it. I think we've been doing a lot of great work, and I think we'll pay off. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of manifesting happening on this show tonight. I love that for sure. The positive vibes. We're going to win by vibes. Cool. All right. Thanks so much for joining us, Ellen.
Thank you.
Thanks for staying past your bedtime. And we are now going to close out the show. And I think we've got an action alert. That's really important because, folks, if you are also, if you're like Ellen, you're just hopeful, that is awesome. If you're like me and you're filled with existential dread about what might be happening over the next near week, that's also a thing. And whatever it is, use those feelings and channel them to do something for this election. We absolutely need people to pitch in and help out. And we here, Progress Kentucky, we're doing canvassing in a couple of key House districts of the folks we have endorsed, specifically Sherilyn Stevenson, Adam Moore. Really important we hold Sherilyn's seat. Really important we flip the 45th and put Adam Moore in Frankfort. And those are the most like reasonable, rational, important races, I think, in this region right now to be engaged with. We are leading with the Amendment 2 messaging and letting people know what's going on with that horrible bill, as we just discussed. But we are canvassing on Saturday in the morning. We're canvassing Sunday in the afternoon. Really love to have you join us in those efforts. Progress Kentucky will buy you coffee and bring you a donut on Saturday morning. And Sunday, after we wrap up, we'll buy you a beer or your preferred beverage. So it's not Elon Musk. We're not going to give you $1 million if you vote, but we will, reward you for engaging. We're not a big budget, deep pocket organization, but I'm pretty confident we can cover the cost of coffee and the cost of a beer. So you should come on out and join us. Nate has put the sign up form in the chat. Just click there. Come on out, help out. Let's make a difference and do the right thing for our Commonwealth. How about it? All right. I think that's it. Kimberly, you gonna close us out today? If you can unmute your possessed computer. Kimberly Cecil Jones, are you there?
There we go.
Yes.
She's muted again.
Y'all think that's funny, huh?
I don't. I'm laughing.
I'm having
technical problems.
I'm having technical difficulties. Huh?
Do you need Nate to close us out, or have you got this?
No, I think I got it somewhat. Okay. So I just want to say this, that tonight was an excellent show with Randy Cravens and Ellen. It has been very, very informative to me. And notice how I didn't say too much tonight. You know what I'm saying? I let you and Nate do your thing, But I do want to say that Progress Kentucky is a nonprofit organization registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State and organized as a 501c4. We are affiliated with the Indivisible Project, the Commonwealth Alliance for Voter Engagement, known as CAVE, and we are also proud members of the Forward Kentucky Network. Progress Kentucky's goal has always been to educate, organize, increase voter turnout, and advance a progressive agenda through civic engagement. On next week's show, we will have some great people on. Bruce Maples of Forward Kentucky, and that is only just assuming we'll know most of the election results by Wednesday night. And the production of episode 184 was by our own phenomenal, great entertainer, as well as co-host and producer, Mr. Nate Orshan. Thank you so much, Nate, for your hard work. And Nate, he also wrote and performed our theme song, and he has some like bomb songs on his website. So you can go and listen to some of his music. Songs.com. That's NATO songs.com. And if you miss our weekly live stream on Facebook or YouTube, you can also listen to our audio podcast, and our show notes are always available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and just about wherever you get your podcast. If you do listen to the pod, please leave us a 5-star review wherever you are listening. And logo and some graphic content was provided by Couchfire Media. I would like to put this for everyone to make sure to share this show. As we get closer to the election, it is so imperative that people have this information so that they can make the educated choice for their life. And good show tonight. So until then, we'll see you next week on the same time, the same bat channel. And it's Wednesday. Have a great rest of your week.
How is that sound made, Nate?
It's a keyboard. It's a synthesizer.
Nice.
That's controlled by the computer, but I'm playing it. So
It's so
I got some chops.
It's so fun.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
I'm such a fan of that, and if you wanted to do a little song for news of the week, I think that would be phenomenal. But I also like what we got right now. But clearly, now that we have no Doug Price, we have no Doug Price is Right. We don't have the excuse to play that anymore. So
we don't have that excuse anymore. I think Kimberly's her own theme, actually. And it's Kimberly Cecil Jones,
It could work.